Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel Learn GSP with Mahesh. Today we'll see 10 rapid tips which could be really helpful for your Google Cloud Architect exam. A quick shout out before we look into the 10 rapid tips. I'm starting my batch 4 in Google Cloud Architect training, so customized training. If you're really interested, please reach out to me either by dropping an email or via the various channels which is displayed on the slide. Let's look into the first tip. The first step is basically on the G-Cloud equivalent. In most of my videos, I usually emphasize on the command line equivalent for every resource because this is very important from a exam perspective and also when you become a cloud architect. Now, which we are going to look into today's tip is how to make a virtual machine preemptible. What is a G-Cloud equivalent of it? Let's look into that in a small demo. So we are in our compute engine screen, and to make this virtual machine preemptible, under the management section, if you come to availability policy, you will have an option called as preemptibility. You need to turn this on. By default, it would be off, which means it's a regular virtual machine. To make it a preemptible virtual machine, you need to make it on. By making this on, you can easily get the command line equivalent of that. By just clicking on this command line, and you'll come to know that the flag would be called as -- preemptible. This is the first step. Moving on to the second tip, again emphasizing on G-Cloud command. In this case, it is with respect to the disk. So you will get boot disk and data disk. What is the option to delete your boot disk and your data disk? What is the G-Cloud equivalent? Let's look into that. So we are already in our compute engine screen, and if you wanted to add a disk, do any modification to the disk, click on this disk option. By default, when you delete your virtual machine, your boot disk would be automatically deleted. So that is this flag or radio checkbox. And when you have a data disk, by default, the disk will be always retained. Now our requirement is we don't want to delete boot disk. We want to delete the data disk. If you want to do that, what is the G-Cloud equivalent of it? So if I just click on the command line equivalent, you'll realize that the equivalent to delete the boot, not to delete the boot disk is -- no boot disk auto delete. And to to delete your data disk, the option is auto delete equal to S. So this is your mode when it comes to your data disk. And if you want to retain your data boot disk, this is the option. Don't delete it. No boot disk -- auto delete. Moving on to the next step, scale down to 0. So if you were to have a compute option which can scale down to 0 and which is totally serverless, in GCP you have 3 or 5 compute options. One is compute engine, Kubernetes engine, you have app engine. In app engine you have two environments, app engine standard, app engine flexible, then you have cloud functions, and the last one is your cloud run. And in these 5 options, what is the one which is serverless and which can scale down to 0? So those are your app engine standard, very specific app engine standard, cloud functions, and cloud run. And I wanted to show you this in an official page. So this is the official page which mentions about the serverless offering GCP has, and you should be able to see it very clearly. They mention App Engine Standard, Cloud Functions, and Cloud Run. If it's a complete web application written in a modern language like Java, Node.js, Python, you can use App Engine Standard. If you have one endpoint which you wanted to run it in cloud, App in Cloud Function is a good choice. And if you have one endpoint and you wanted to and you are written that in a language which is not supported by Cloud Functions, then I would say Cloud Run is a good choice. So moving on to the fourth tip, since we are discussing more on compute, just let's switch gears to Kubernetes engine. The tip is the default. What is the default OS of GKE's node? So if you have a 3-node Kubernetes cluster, the nodes, what is the operating system of those nodes? The default operating system is Container Optimized OS, COS. Let me just show you that. We are in a Kubernetes engine page, and if you click on the default nodes, under the default nodes, click on nodes, you'll know the machine type or the kernel which you're going to use for these nodes are Container Optimized OS. So you have other options, but the default one is this one, and I would highly recommend using this option because it is purpose built for running containerized workload. Moving on to the next tip, load balancers are always attached to an instance group and not to a virtual machine. We are in our load balancer creation page. Let me click create a load balancer, a L7 load balancer, and the traffic is coming from internet, and the most important configuration is here is backend configuration. If I click on that, you get two flavors. One is backend service and one is backend bucket. If I select backend service and if I click on create, the most important information which you need to remember here is the backend type, which can be either instance group or network endpoint group. It cannot be a virtual machine. That is the message which I wanted to convey here. Moving on to the next tip, the best practice when you're creating a Docker image. So always tag it. Don't leave it without tagging. If you don't tag it, it will take it as latest by default, and this is not at all recommended. Always tag it with a specific version. And this is not me saying this, there's a official documentation which says that. And the official documentation is from kubernetes.io, and this page basically talking about the best practices of container Docker image creation, and they mention this note here: please avoid using latest tag when deploying containers in production because it's harder to track. The best way is to always use some kind of a tagging option there, version 1, version 1.2, whatever it is, but this is a best practice. Never ever just leave it as is, otherwise it will take it as latest, very difficult to track it. Moving on to the next step, which is enable automatic storage increase. This is a small checkbox which you get when you are creating a Cloud SQL instance, whether it is MySQL, Postgres or SQL Server. This helps you to do storage scalability, and please remember this is a default setting. So but just remember that such a setting exists is very important. So I'm in my instance Cloud SQL instance creation page. If I choose MySQL for simplicity reason, and it should be the same for other options also, Postgres and SQL Server. Under configuration option, if you go to instance type, you should see this checkbox. By default it is enabled. What it means is whenever the storage, in this case it hits 10 GB, it will be automatically increased. There is a cron job or a process which runs every 30 seconds, which keeps on watching whether the storage has reached to the upper limit. If it reaches right, it will make sure the storage would be increased automatically without any downtime. So that is the important thing, and please remember this checkbox is enabled by default. Moving on to the next step, which is basically the upper limit of your Cloud SQL instance. It could be MySQL, Postgres or SQL Server. The upper limit as of today is 30 terabytes. So when I started my GCP journey, I had seen the upper limit at that time was 10 terabytes. Now it has increased to 30 terabytes, but in the future definitely it can increase, but as of today it is only 30 terabytes. Please remember this, just to make sure that you can recollect it very well during the exam time. So just wanted to show you the screen here. We had seen in our previous this thing, the enable automatic storage increase. Now adding to that, if I just make this instance, Cloud SQL instance, very powerful, 96 vCPU, 624 GB of RAM, the most one, the powerful one. Even if you have a powerful Cloud SQL instance configuration, the volume which you can use, or the data volume which you can use, is only 30 terabytes. It cannot be beyond 30 terabytes. Remember this. Moving on to the ninth tip, which is one of my most favorite tip, that is private Google access. So if you have a virtual machine and which has only internal IP address, you want to communicate with Google services like Google Cloud Storage, you can do that by just turning on this radio button when you create the sub network in your VPC screen. So private Google access, and I have already created a couple of videos on that. I'm going to put that video link in the description. You can look into it, but this is a very important thing. And you may know that external IP address is going to be charged now. So from June it's going to be charged. So if you don't need to have a external IP address, just disable it and turn on this private Google access at each sub network. so that you can communicate with Google services using internal IP address. And if it's internal IP address, it's going to be more secure also rather than taking the external IP address route. So I'm in my VPC creation page. So just give a name to your VPC, and I'm going to use a custom VPC option here, and I'm going to create one subnetwork called a subnetwork-Mumbai, and this is the radio bar option. So usually folks will just enter the subnetwork name, the region, and the CIDR range, and they're going to just click on create. But instead of doing that, if you can just look into those options which are there, private Google access, this could be really helpful. By default it is off. To make it on, turn this, and if you just mouse around this tooltip, these tooltips in GCP are really helpful. They help give you a good understanding what are these purpose. So you don't need to look into the documentation for everything. Just look into this tooltip. It can give you good information. If you want further details, definitely looking into the documentation is good, but this tooltips gives you a quick option to understand, where it mentions if you have turned this on, you can communicate with other Google services using internal IP address. That is a key part of it. And since I usually emphasize on the command line equivalent of it, why don't we look into the command line equivalent of this also? So this is like your bonus tip. If I just click on command line equivalent, you should be able to see the command line equivalent for this is -- enable private Google IP Google access. So it's another important thing. So this is the best practice which I usually share. Whenever you create any resource, make sure you look into the command line equivalent of it. Moving on to the last tip, which is an interesting one. So activity logs. Have you ever seen this activity log in any of your console? If you have not seen it, just hold on. I'm going to show you that where it is available. So take a scenario. You want to analyze who created a very expensive virtual machine in last 1 hour or 2 hours. If you want to do that, the option is look into your activity log. Folks who are well versed with GCP may say we can look into operation logging, or so-called previously called as Stackdriver logging. You can definitely look into that, but activity log is more easier, simpler, and it shows the information in a more presentable way. That is the reason I thought activity log is something which is easy for somebody to look into it. Let me just show you that. To make that thing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just create a virtual machine, which we started with our first tip. I'm just going to click on create and pretend as if this is a virtual machine which is having a very large machine type, and I wanted to know who created this virtual machine. So for that is what we are going to do. So if I just refresh the screen, I should have the virtual machine up and running. Now I'm going to click on my logo, Google Cloud Platform, and when you click on this, you will see this activity. So this is your activity page. So just click on this and you should be able to see the details there. And if I just put a tab and search time India time now, you should be able to see what is the time. So the time now is, okay, it's not showing it properly, time. So the current time is 4:29, and if I go to my activity page, you should be able to see that at 4:29 a virtual machine was created. Created by which user? What is the name of the instance? What is the boot disk? Everything I'll be able to get it in a very nice presentable way. Now if you're very curious, if you wanted to see how it looks in Stackdriver, just go, or so-called, like previously called as Stackdriver, now it is called as operation logging. Just go and you should be able to see the same thing, but it will be more in a raw format, more in a JSON format. The way you do is click on this option, go to your GCE VM instance and select all instance ID. When you do that, you should be able to see what is the VM which has been created. 429. If you see 429, this was a VM which was created. Usually in REST APIs, it would be called as insert. Creation is called as insert. When I expand this log information, you'll be able to see the principal email. This is the person who created this virtual machine. So you see this, it is very raw. That is the reason I prefer to use activity page, which is really helpful. And in activity you can have also the option of filtering out what you want. So if you don't want data access, development, monitoring, just wanted configuration, you can also put this option. So those are the top 10 rapid tips which I wanted to share it with you. Let me know which tip you really liked it in the comment section, and happy learning. Thank you for watching.